Hey everyone, this is Matt here, and today I have this video that I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for a while. This is my Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Eldlich post-branded deck profile. Alright, so I've dropped Floodgates, I've dropped Subterror, have you seen? I'm sure some of you are wondering, where's your Eldlich deck? Why aren't you playing Eldlich? Yes, I have an Eldlich deck, and I will showcase it for you today, right here in this video. Yeah, this Eldlich deck, the choices I've made in here are basically comprised of what I've been seeing through the rank ladder, what my experience has been playing Eldlich, playing other decks, playing Subterror, right? Yeah, so just like the other deck profile videos that I recently posted, I'm going to be walking you through making this deck from scratch and the thought process behind. Alright, so yes, Eldlich is still very good. You can run a lot of the Floodgates that can stop some of the top decks. Right now, the top most popular decks right now are Despia, Sword Soul, and Floodgates. Floodgates just got their quick play spell, so you're going to be seeing a lot of Floodgates, folks, in the near future. So let's get into it. So let's start off with our Eldlich core. So as expected, we have exactly 2 Eldlich to Golden Lord. No more, no fewer. 2 is the number. If you're playing 1, you're doing it, you're wrong. If you're playing 3, you're wrong. 2 is the number. Do not play more or fewer than 2, please. Don't make me play the Triff video. This is non-negotiable. All right. Next, we have 3 copies of Elixir. This is mandatory 3 of. This is what gets your Eldlich out, and it also searches all of your Golden Land traps. Right. We have 2 copies of Aquero. Whoops. I want the shiny one. 1 copy of Conquistador. So Conquistador is still limited, unfortunately. So yeah, 1 copy of that, and then 2 copies of Aquero. No fewer than 2 copies of Aquero. Now, some people may want to opt to play a 3rd copy of Aquero, because Aquero is very, very good against Branded Despia, but I think 2 is enough. I haven't really felt like I needed more than 2 in that matchup, so 2 it is. We're not playing Cursed Eldland. I know I've teased Cursed Eldland before, but yeah, every time I think about playing Cursed Eldland, I try it and I play test it, and I realize, oh, I hate this card, so then I take it out. So yeah, if some of you in the past videos, oh, you're a hypocrite. First you say don't play Cursed Eldland, then you said play it. Now you're saying don't play it. Like, folks, you change how you build your deck based on the format. Okay, this is common sense Yu-Gi-Oh deck building 101, right? The game changes over time, and you have to change your deck with it. You can't stay on the same deck or use the same cards every single game. You have no matter what the meta is, what the format is, what's good, whatever. Like, you have to adapt. Okay. The reason I tried Cursed Eldland is I thought, oh, this could be an interesting way to search Eldlich and use Eldlich to snipe like cards like Branded Red, Blackout, Dreaming Town, etc. Right. So I know after playtesting, I was reminded why I don't like Cursed Eldland, so we are not playing Cursed Eldland. So you should not play Cursed Eldland. Yeah, it's a bad card. You should not play Golden Land Forever either. This card is absolute like dog shit. I don't know why I see Eldlich players play this card sometimes. It's like you're trading 2 for 1, basically. You're trading the trap plus your Eldlich monster most of the time. And yeah, technically you can recycle Eldlich, but you have to send another card to do that, right? So you still net negative, right? It's not a good card. Like, you're better off playing Solemn Strike or Solemn Judgment or any other like counter trap. So yeah, so this is the Eldlich core. We don't play a Guardian. We don't play any of the spells. No White Destiny. No Black Awakening. We don't need any of that. Okay, we don't need it. So Eldlich core, very small in Master Duel. It's 8 cards. In IRL TCG, it would be 10 because we have 2 additional copies of Conquistador. So that's the Eldlich core, and now we build the rest of the deck based on that. So this is the Eldlich core. Now let's talk about cards that are I would consider part of the core of the deck, but are not actually part of the Eldlich core. So Lord of the Heavenly Prison. I swear, like, if you're playing a control deck, just play 3 of these. You're playing Altergeist, play 3 of these. You're playing Amazement, you're playing Labyrinth, you're playing whatever. You're playing Dino Waifus. Play 3 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. There's no reason not to. Like, it's just so good. Not only does it protect your back row, it summons a 3K beater, it searches a spell trap from the deck. There's literally no downside to playing this card. It's so good, right? Like, this is a mandatory 3 of, in my opinion. Alright, let's get into other cards. Mandatory 3 of for control decks. Triple Solemn Strike. It just goes without saying, like, it's a counter trap that negates monster effects, which are the most common effects in the game, and it can negate summons. They summon Access Code, Solemn Strike, gone. They summon Zeus, Solemn Strike, gone, right? You just don't have to deal with like a lot of those problematic cards, right? All right, the pot cards. Double pot duality. You love to see it. Double pot of extravagance. So I've explained in my other videos why this is the good ratio, right? 2 of each. Duality because you seldom special summon on your turn. And if you're starting off on your first turn and you open Pod Duality, you're definitely not going to special summon anything on your first turn, right? You want 2 extra, not 3, because you'll never play the third one. You don't want to draw Extrav into drawing into another Extrav. You'd rather draw into a Duality. And guess what, folks? A Pod Extrav is searchable off Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Most of the time, you will search that. So when you're using Lord of the Heavenly Prison, when it summons itself, after being revealed, it can search a spell trap and set it to your deck. To your field. Most of the time, you search Pot of Extravagance. If you're out of those, you search Pot of Duality. Although the prior rule is if you don't have any Eldlich engine pieces in a rotation, then you actually search Elixir. But otherwise, you'll be searching one of these 4 because most of the time you'll draw some piece of your Eldlich engine. So yeah, So I would say this is the core of the deck. It's a very small core, 18 out of 40 cards. That means we have 22 deck slots to play with. So yeah, there's a lot that we can do here, and a lot of this will change based on format. So in the current format, as you may have seen in my other video on Subterror, we're running 3 copies of D-Barrier. This card is just absolutely broken. Right now, like I said, best decks, most popular, Branded Despia. You flip D-Barrier on them, you call fusions, their turn is over, they can't do anything. Sword Soul, next most popular deck. You flip this on them, you call Synchros, they can't do anything. Again, not only does this prevent them from summoning their monsters, but it literally prevents them from activating their effects, like even the effects of those monsters already on the field. So, yeah, very OP right now. Does nothing against Flanders, but like against Numeron, call Xyz, done. Against Pendulums, call Pendulums, done. Against Drytron, call Rituals, done. Like, yeah, you want to be playing a D-Barrier. Additionally, we play 2 additional copies of D-Barrier via Trap Trick. So you now have 5 copies of D-Barrier. Trap Trick is also good because it's 2 more copies of Elixir. You want an Elixir. You want it to resolve so you can get your Eldlich engine going because, honestly, the worst part of this deck is the Eldlich cards. We only play the Eldlich cards so that we can attack their life points. That's it. Like, Eldlich by itself and its package like Conk and Walquero, they're not that good in a vacuum. All the other cards are better. Solemn Strike is better. D-Barrier is better, etc. Right? Like, but you need to be able to attack their life points and destroy their monsters. So here we are. All right. Okay. We're also running 2 copies of Skill Drain. Actually, I would say 2 copies of Skill Drain is core to this deck. Yeah. So let's take out. Let me redo that. So yeah, it's actually 20 out of 40 is the core because I don't think there's ever a situation or meta or format where you don't want to run Skill Drain because Skill Drain does not affect your monsters. Eldlich's effects, it has a hand effect, it has a graveyard effect, does not have a field effect. Whole Lotta Heavenly Prison has a hand effect, no field effect. So yeah, we're definitely running 2 maxing out on Skill Drains, which is 2 in Master Duel. Anyway, so back to what I had before. I had 3 D-Barrier and I had 2 Trap Trick. Alright, so we're at 25 cards. We have 15 left to fill. Alright, more meta calls. Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. This card is absolutely broken against Branded Despia. It does nothing against Sword Soul, does nothing against Floo, does nothing against Numeron, although it does do stuff against Pendulums, because Pendulums rely on a lot of dark monsters. But the thing is, Branded Despia it's so tedious and annoying to play against Branded Despia. You kind of want them to scoop as quickly as possible. They deal with them as quickly as possible, and the best way to do that is to hit them with a Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. Under Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, they can't do anything. Shadow Imprisoning negates all dark monster effects on the field or graveyard. It doesn't matter where the monster is. All that matters is where it was activated. If it was activated in the graveyard, negated. Activated on the field, negated. Bam. Like you just shut them down completely. There are some other rogue decks that lucid this too, and like. Other matchups here and there. For example, Dinomorphia. I haven't seen any Dinomorphia, but if let's say you're against Dinomorphia, this shuts down their main their monsters. They're all darks, right? Like I said, Pendulums, right? Let's say you're against Sky Striker. Guess what? Ray is a dark monster. Access Code is a dark monster, right? That shuts down most of their major plays. I mean, they can still make, Shizuku and whatever. Let's say you're against heroes. The best hero monsters are darks, right? Anything that runs DP uses darks. Phantom Knights, all darks, right? So Shadow Imprisoning, even though mostly targeted at the top deck, which is Branded Despia, does get a lot of work done against some of these less common decks. Simply because of the fact that dark is such a it's such a good type, monster type. It's the most powerful monster type in the game is dark monsters, and it doesn't affect our deck whatsoever, right? So we are running 3 copies of Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. All right. Next, I'm running 3 copies of There Can Be Only One. All right. Now, before y'all raise your pitchforks or start typing angrily in the comments, but you said There Can Be Only One was the worst Floodgate. Oh, it's like you said it sucked. Yes, I did say that. Now, again, like I said at the start of the video, you have to change your deck profile and adapt to the times, right? It just so happens that in the current format, There Can Be Only One is really good. It doesn't do anything against Branded Despia, but all the decks behind Branded Despia, such as, but not limited to, Tendy Sword Soul, Floanderies, Numeron, Pendulums, I don't know if people play Dragon Link, Heroes, right? All these decks get completely destroyed by There Can Be Only One, right? Completely destroyed. So yeah, Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors hits Branded Despia, but not other decks. Tikaboo hits other decks, but not Branded Despia. So it's kind of a give and take. You kind of have the option for both, right? Most of the time, Tikaboo is not a good card, right? Especially when Adventure was everywhere, Tikaboo was absolutely not a good card, right? But now I almost never see Adventure anymore, because Adventure can ignore this and play around it and out it, right? The fact that now that we don't see almost any Adventure decks being played, Tikaboo is back on the menu, boys. It's good again. So just like in my Subterror deck, yeah, obviously Subterror can play around Tikaboo better than Eldlich can. So while Tikaboo is face up on the field, you cannot activate Conquer Huaquero, right? You can't have a second Eldlich, so you are a bit limited, but you can have Eldlich and Lord of the Heavenly Prison at the same time. And in fact, it enables your extra deck plays a little bit better, which I'll get into later. So, yes, Tikaboo is good right now. That doesn't mean it will always be good. It doesn't mean it always has been good, and it doesn't mean that next format it will still be good. Right now, in this current Master Duel format, it is good. Okay, that's all So, just please understand that just because I said in another video that this card sucked, again, look at the context. Look at what format we were in. Look at what decks were actually being played at the time. Yeah, Tikaboo was not good for the longest time. Now it is actually pretty good in this format. So I am playing 3 copies of Tikaboo. So yeah, that's a meta call. I am playing 2 copies of Rivalry of Warlords. So Rivalry of Warlords is interesting because it does hit Branded Despia. Not as hard as Shadow Imprisoning, obviously, but it does hit it. Eldlich can play around it very easily, similar to Gozen Match. It doesn't do much. It doesn't do anything to Floo. It doesn't do anything to a lot of other decks. It doesn't do much to. Although I will say, a Sword Soul player cannot make Baron de Fleur, or if you're going second, you can flip this, force them to keep either the Baron de Fleur or the Chi-Shao. So it does, slightly hit Sword Soul, but the main reason we're playing this is for the Branded Despia match. We just want more cards to just stop Branded Despia from being able to play, right? And we are running 2 copies of Gozen Match. Gozen Match does very little against Branded Despia. Yes, some monsters in Branded Despia are light. So Lubellion is a light monster. So let's say you're going first. You set Gozen Match. They hard play Branded Fusion. Summon Lubellion, activate Lubellion, effect, discard a card. You chain Gozen Match. They're locked in the light monsters. They have to make a light monster. I think the only good option they'll have, assuming they send Despian Tragedy, will probably be Despian Querchus, which is not a great boss monster. So yeah, they're basically locked into lights. You can lock them into lights here. But if they already have darks on the field, then Gozen Match won't do much. Against Sword Soul, Gozen Match completely wrecks Sword Soul, almost as hard as Tikaboo. Against Floanderies, it's not the best. Obviously, There Can Be Only One is better against Floanderies, but Gozen Match, let's say, they're on a water bird or they summon Robina. You lock them into waters, they can't summon anything else, right? You shut down half of their bird engine, which is pretty good. So yeah, so let's count how many Floodgates we're running here. So this entire row here is Floodgates, so that's 10 cards. 11, 12. 12 floodgates. D-barrier are lingering floodgates, so I guess we can say 15. But yeah, we want to close out these games quickly. We don't want to waste time with Branded Despia, because Branded Despia matchups are very long and tedious. But if you flip Shadow and Prisoner on them, they'll probably just scoop. So that is what it is. So last 5 slots, you can kind of pick and choose whatever you want to play. Obviously, you can cut Gozen. I think Gozen right now is one of the weaker floodgates. Gozen and Rivalry obviously a little better just because it hits the best deck. I wouldn't cut Rivalry with Gozen, but if you wanted to, I can respect that, right? So I'm still playing 3 copies of Torrential Tribute because it's just amazing in Eldlich. It's good against every matchup except Branded Despia. Well, against Branded Despia, it's good if they don't have Branded Opening in the graveyard. So if they get Branded Opening in the graveyard, then you just like roll your eyes like, oh fuck, because it's like, oh, it's hard to out their board because Branded Opening will just eat up Torrential Tribute and it'll do nothing, right? And I am also running 2 copies of Dogmatic Punishment. I still love Dogmatic Punishment. It's a great card. Helps take care of problematic back row. Also against Floo, you kind of want Dogmatic Punishment because if they have Barrier Statue and like Unexplored Winds, you want to snipe Barrier Statue with the Punishment and just take out Unexplored Winds. So yeah, you do kind of want to get rid of some of those annoying cards. Obviously, another way you can get rid of problematic cards or back row is with Eldritch's Hand Effect, but however, you will be susceptible to Call by the Grave. So speaking of Call by the Grave, as an alternative tech, you can play double Call by the Grave. Normally, I don't like playing Call by the Grave in control decks. I typically avoid it. However, because Branded in red exists, and it requires a target in the graveyard to resolve, having 2 Call by the Grave here could be pretty good. And then, worst case, you take out an Ash if they Ash your Elixir, like whatever, like. Obviously, you want to cut 2 cards to make it 40. Maybe you think, Gozen isn't doing enough. You take out Gozen, or maybe you think, Rivalry's not doing enough. You take out Rivalry. Feel free to play Call by the Grave if you like. I don't think it's that necessary because I'd rather just have all these floodgates to just say no to. It's like, so, let's say you don't draw. Let's say you're going second against Branded Despia. You draw your cards or whatever, your 6 cards. Let's say you don't have access to Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and they're going to be able to use Guardian Chimera to pop 1 or 2 of your cards. You have like 15 floodgates, so who cares if they pop 1 or 2 cards, right? So yeah, that's if you overwhelm them with floodgates, popping 1 or 2 cards isn't going to matter. Same with like Sword Soul Blackout. Speaking of Branded Despia, one thing I noticed playing against a lot of these Branded Despia players in Diamond, they're not very good. What do I mean by that? So previously, if you've seen in some of my previous Eldlich videos, I mentioned how I was toying with the idea. I took out Sphere Mode and I put in double Lava Golem, right? So I was running double Lava Golem at one point, just so I can out the 2 monsters that Branded Despia set up. Because Sword Soul always sets up 2 monsters, right? Chi Shao plus a Synchro 10, most of the time is Brone. You Lava Golem that, you move on with your life, right? You set. But then so I don't know what it is. Like, there seems to be a big disconnect between the TCG and the Master Duel. Because when I was playing against Branded Despia in the TCG, Lava Golem was great because almost every Branded Despia ended on 2 or more monsters. Usually 2, but sometimes a third. Usually it's like a Luber Mirror Jade or a Mirror Jade Masquerade or Mirror Jade Double Masquerade. Typically they had 2 monsters, but I've been playing some of these Branded Despia kids and like Master Duel, and they just end on Mirror Jade. I'm like, wait, so you're gonna get 1 pop off your Guardian Chimera? That just seems like bad, right? So I don't know. I just saw way too many Branded Despia boards ending on 1 monster, and I'm just like, what? Okay. So then Lava Golem ends up doing nothing. So I don't know. This is just a Master Duel call. It just feels like the Branded Despia decks I've been playing in Master Duel have not been ending on 2 monsters often enough for some really bizarre reason. So I just cut Lava Golem. But, Lava Golem's still good against Sword Soul and other decks, right, like Pendulums or whatever. But obviously Lava Golem does nothing to Floo because if they have the barrier statue up, then you can't Lava Golem, period. So, yeah, so I cut Lava Golem. But if maybe you're the Branded Despia players that you're being matched with, maybe they're better at putting 2 monsters on the board. So maybe you can go ahead and Lava Golem, keep Lava Golem, right? So, yeah, Lava Golem and Call by the Grave are definitely worthwhile honorable mentions for possibly making it into this deck. And yeah, feel free to cut what you think. You know, if you want, cut Torrential Tribute down to 2 copies, right, instead of 3. If you're seeing too many branded openings in the graveyard. One thing that's recall, we have Trap Trick. So any normal trap you have here, including Torrential, there's just 2 more copies thanks to the Trap Trick. Note that we are no longer playing Witch's Strike. Why would we take out Witch's Strike? Because I barely see Adventure anymore. Like, I just haven't really seen that many opportunities to resolve it. Gone are the days where we could just set Witch's Strike, flip it, have it instantly scoop, and then put minute-long shorts on YouTube for free clicks and ad revenue. Right? Gone are those days, unfortunately. So where I can laugh maniacally like a crazy person because someone negated my card like I wanted them to, and then I blow up their entire existence and with one card called Witch's Strike. Right? Gone are those days. So now we have to deal with this stupid Branded Despia deck, which, yeah, it's still worse than Eldlich in my opinion, but it's just more tedious, right? Because we can't just flip one card and just call it a day. You know what I mean? So, all right, so that's the main deck. Yeah, I think that the triple. I think you'll have a really good time with the triple Shadow Imprisoning. A lot of my people in my comments have already mentioned that Shadow Imprisoning have been doing a lot of work for them. Yeah, play 3 of them. Fuck it. Let's say they out one, you have another one probably, right? And then Tikaboo against Floo. That rhymed. Yeah, they're gonna insta scoop, as you saw in my Adventures of video in Subterror where I was playing Tikaboo against Subterror against Sword Soul. They just insta scoop. So if you like winning games instantaneously by flipping one card, this is the deck. This is the build for you because I'm pretty sure they will scoop instantaneously. All right, let's get into the extra deck, shall we? So we're gonna go start off with our Dogmatica punishment targets. Triple Antis. We have the Wind Pegasus. And we have Omega. Bam. Alright. So, yeah. So, good targets. Omega is not as good because DP has been less prevalent. And, typically we like to use Omega to bounce DP back into the extra deck. And not have to deal with DP ever again. So I would say, like, of these, if you really need to replace something or want to try something else, feel free to get rid of Omega, right? So let's get into our ranks. Constellar Pallades, where you at? Right here. This is our 1 rank 5 that we use to Exceeds off of Waquero and or Conquistador. Of course, we have Gustav, Max, 1 copy. We have Lieb, Juggernaut Lieb, 1 copy. We're no longer running Zeus, so yeah, remember the OTK. So, 2k damage from the Rail Cannon. That's a rank 10 that you can make off of Eldlich and or Lord of Heavenly Prison. And then you rank that up into Lieb. Lieb becomes 6,000 attack, and then you can swing for game for 8k total damage. So, here's your OTK potential. Let's go our links. Link Spider. Sometimes we want to get Waquero or Conquistador in the graveyard, we can use a Link Spider, or we can use Imduck, the World Chalice Dragon. So we have one of each. Imduck has this nifty little ability where if it points to a monster and it attacks it, you can pop it, and it's a wind monster. And it being a wind monster is very important, as I'll get into in a bit, because we have Wind the Wind Charmer. So Wind the Wind Charmer can revive opponents' wind monsters. What wind monsters, you may ask? M-Pen is wind. Baron de Fleur is wind, right? There's a number of, let's say you're in a virtual matchup. Shen is wind, right? You have a number of decent wind options, and sometimes you just want to revive their wind monster onto your field and have access to it, right? So Wind the Wind Charmer. So to make it, you need a wind monster. The only wind monster we have is Imduck, so you can transform one of your Golden Land trap monsters into a wind monster using Imduck, right? Next we have Lina the Light Charmer. So Lina revives light monsters. Light monsters like what? Maybe a Lubellion, maybe a Despian Quertus, maybe a Fairy Tale Snow, maybe a Chisao, right? There's a number of options for lights that you can revive. And since most of our main monsters are Lich are light, right? The Golden Land monsters light, it's not hard to make. And of course, the final charmer we make is Dark the Dark Charmer. Needs no explanation. Dark monsters are the best monsters in the game. The best deck right now are mostly dark monsters. You want to be able to make dark. The only way you can make dark is with Lord of the Heavenly Prison, because that's the only dark monster. So, Next, we're playing Draco Masters of the Tenyi. So this is a link 3. We needed a link 3 so that if we make access code, we can make a 5300 access code. Celine doesn't really work in this deck or do anything because we don't have spellcasters. So I like to play Draco Master of Tenyi. When I was playing in my Adventures of series, when I was playing Floo, I played against an Eldlich player who I think watches my content. And if you're out there and you're watching this right now, leave a comment down in the thing, right? I think he ran like Code Talker, or one of the Link 3 Code Talker, Decode Talker. I don't know what it's called. That's a fine option. I have nothing wrong with that one. It has a good effect, right? It's good, right? I like Draco Masters. And then finally we have Access Code Talker. So cool thing I want to mention about Tikaboo. So yeah, Tikaboo does lock us out of being able to use Conk if we have Eldlich on the field or have a second Eldlich, right? Also locks us out of using Huaquero. So Tikaboo can backfire a little bit. However, like any Floodgate or any spell trap, if you have an Eldlich in your graveyard, you can get rid of the Floodgate if you need to, assuming you have it, right? But a cool thing is like Tikaboo, you can kind of do whatever because of our Link monster lineup. You can kind of link climb an access code through Tikaboo, right? Let's say you have on your field Lord Eldlich and Lord of the Heavenly Prison. With those two, you can make Lina a spellcaster. With Lina, you can revive whatever light monster they have, right? That's probably not a spellcaster, although I guess it could be, right? Could be a Nibiru, right? Nibiru is a rock. A lot of people like to discard Nibiru because, oh, it's Eldlich. Like Nibiru's uses. Nibiru is a commonly discarded card, right? So you have a spellcaster and a rock. And then you link climb into Draco Masters, which is a worm, right? And then you flip Huaquero, which is a zombie, right? Or you revive Eldlich, which is a zombie, right? So then you have a worm on the field with a zombie, and now you want to make access code. Access code is a cyber. So you can absolutely link climb and play through all this over Tikaboo, right? Same with the rank 10s. So let's say you have Eldlich, a zombie, and Lord of Heavenly Prison rock on the field. You want to make Gustav Max. It's a machine, right? You make that. You discard Eldlich, you revive Eldlich, you now have a zombie and a machine, right? So obviously you can't make Lieb because you already have Gustav Max, but I'm just saying it's a little easier to play around Tikaboo if you're doing extra deck plays. So Rivalry is like impossible to play around because again all your monsters in the extra deck are different types. Gozen, it's a little you can't get to access codes into the dark, but you can get to Lina. You can't get to Draco Masters, so Gozen is the second most flexible Floodgate that you can play around if you're trying to do link climbs or whatever. So yeah, one card that you may want to consider playing if you think, oh, I'm never going to use this Omega because hardly anyone plays DP or whatever. You can go ahead and play Underworld Goddess. Underworld Goddess is just a link 5, and it can help you deal with. I don't own it. But let's say you're playing a lot against monsters that are impossible out. For example, let's say you have a lot of matchups where you're going second against the Arrival Cyberse Adagnister, right? Which is that link 6, which is unaffected by card effects, can go from anywhere from 4K to 6K damage attack. The only way out is through battle. So the outs for that is access code at 5300 can run over it, or 4300 can run over it. If it's at 4K attack, if it's at max attack, which is 6K, only Gustav Lieb can run over it. Although, again, I haven't seen Adagnister. I haven't had issues where my opponent puts up these tower monsters that are unbreakable. But yeah, you could always tech this in if you're seeing a lot of those where you just put a bunch of stuff, link climb, right, or whatever, and then you link away their monster. I mean, the problem with Underworld Goddess is it requires at least 4 monsters on your part. And Eldlich doesn't put that many monsters on the field, so that's the main reason I wouldn't play it. But I guess if you really need, we're just hard losing to Adagnister all the time, maybe you can consider that. But I mean, I've outed the Arrival Cyberse with access code and Gustav before, Juggernaut Lead before, so I don't feel like I need it. Wait, what am I missing here? I'm missing one more. Dark. Oh, I took out Omega, right? So that's the deck profile. Let's see, any other tips? Yeah, one cool trick you can do with punishment. So you know how I said that Branded Despia is really annoying because of branded opening, right? It protects their monster from being destroyed by a card or fusion monster being destroyed by a card. One thing you can do is, because again, punishment allows you to pop two things on different chains, right? So you pop it on the punishment chain, and then you pop it on the Intis chain. So one thing you do is like target a fusion problematic fusion, like let's say Despia and Querdas with punishment to pop it. They banish branded opening, and then Intis targets it to pop it again. And if they don't have another branded opening, it just dies, right? So technically, dogmatic punishment can sort of try to kind of play around that. Still not ideal, right? Because you're trading like 1-for-1. But you know that's one way to do it. Another way to clear branded opening is like you can torrential and then like Huaquero to get rid of branded opening so they can't banish right before torrential resolves. There are some tricks to getting around torrential, but or to getting around branded opening. But yeah, branded opening makes it so that you know it's a lot more annoying to clear boards for Brand Despia. It's better to just like negate all their effects or just prevent them from building it in the first place, depending on you know based on what floodgates that you have. So. Branded Despia deck core is actually like very tight. There's not a lot of room for back row clears. So even when I was playing like Floo and like you know whatever Subterror against Branded Despia, they less rarely than other decks had like a Heartbeast, Feather Duster, or Lightning Storm that just like blew out my back row. So I haven't really had that problem. Obviously, another honorable mention is Solemn Judgment. So I think that dude that I played against when I was a Floo, he was Eldlich, had 2 Solemn Judgments. Yeah, feel free to put Solemn Judgment. Maybe take out Gozens or whatever, or like if you really feel like you're getting hit by back row clear too hard or too often, yeah, you can just use double Solemn Judgment to stop that, or you could use Starlight Road, fun card, right? So yeah, obviously I did not climb with this deck. 2 Diamond 1. I have play tested. I have played in Diamond 1. I have played it. You know, while part of my climb, you know, when I was doing primarily Floo, but I have been playing Eldlich, and based on my experience play testing, this is what I felt has been probably the best deck build for dealing with the current format. So obviously, this is not set in stone. Like Tikaboo will not be good forever, but for now, I think it's actually a good meta call, right? So hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you can finally get off my ass about putting out deck lists. I put out like 3 deck lists in the past day, so no more, right? I'll probably put out a poll or something. I don't know. Maybe I already put out a poll, seeing what kind of more content you have. I think someone asked me how I would build Branded Despia. I don't know if that means you want me to make a Branded Despia deck profile. But yeah, I do feel like most Branded Despia player like decks, or at least that I've seen, are just built wrong or suboptimally. I mean, I could put out my deck list for that. I mean, I haven't played, you know, extensively with Brand Despia or other meta decks, but if there's popular demand for it and people just want to see what's my take on Brand Despia or what's my take on how Sword Soul should be built or whatever, I guess I can put that out there. But I guess I just want to see in the comments or even like if I put up a poll, how people are going to react to that. But it seems like my most popular video series has been the Adventures of series. So I'm pretty happy about that. I've toned down doing the individual deck matchups, and I just like, oh, here's a bunch of duels. You know, learn as much as you can from all these different scenarios, and yeah, that seems to have been working out nicely. So, all right, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Peace.